Hey guys, welcome back to Erin Plays. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Vapor95 for sending me this really cool t-shirt. Vapor95 makes aesthetically pleasing designs for both men and women who want to show their love for all things retro. Click the link in the description to check them out. So after completing Castlevania, Dracula's Curse, Castlevania 4, Rondo of Blood, Bloodlines, and Chronicles, I thought it would finally be time to play Castlevania Symphony of the Night. The things I liked most about this game were the music and the attention to detail and the beautiful backgrounds of the stages. I also really enjoyed the familiars, mostly the fairy. She was my helpful little sky dancer that helped me heal and even gave me hints to break walls that I may have missed. I also thought it was cute how she'd sit on your shoulder if you took too long to get going. But the main thing that I took away from this game were the insane amount of awesome enemies and bosses that kept things fun and exciting, especially in the Upside Down Castle. So I thought it would be fun to do a list of 10 of the best Symphony of the Night enemies. Let's get started. Number 1, Grand Faloon. This list isn't in any specific order, but I thought it would be cool to start things off with a bang and get straight to the good stuff. Let's talk about what I think is probably the most fucked up enemy in the entire game, Grand Faloon, or Legion, depending on the Castlevania game you're playing. This monstrous beast is made up of 3 parts. When you first land in the Sea of Skulls and Human Carnage, you see a lot of bodies that form a shell of sorts. And I mean a lot of bodies. It's just one big ball of bodies that just roll around, and I think they're still alive. Or maybe they're dead and possessed. I don't know. But this big ball of flesh can easily just roll over you and smush you. Then the bodies start dripping off the huge mass and start walking at you, trying to attack. Oh my god, it's a bunch of bodies! I thought it was a giant brain! Ew, look at all the flesh! Just imagine you're in Alucard's shoes right now. First, you need to comprehend that there's a giant ball of flesh in front of you, but then the bodies just start flinging themselves at you. It's terrifying! But that's not it! Once you attack your way into the sphere, you realize there is something else going on in here. You see a slimy hell demon of a starfish. And depending on how leveled up you are or what weapon you choose, you may not even get a good look at this part. That's one thing that sucked. My instinct was to, you know, kill the enemy as fast as possible so I don't get killed myself. But then I missed out on getting a good look at a lot of these guys. Fun fact alert, apparently the name Grand Faloon is a reference to the Kurt Vonnegut novel Cat's Cradle. In the book, they define it as, now I'm paraphrasing here, but a group of people who shared the same identity or purpose, but like in a negative way. So this is basically a horrendous literal interpretation of that. And thank you to my Twitch chat for letting me know that fun little tidbit. Number 2, fake Castlevania 3 heroes. Now this was one of my favorite surprises out of the whole game, probably because Dracula's Curse is one of my favorite games of all time. I love Trevor and Sypha, and yeah, Grant's alright too, so I was happy to see them appear in this game. But these guys are not the same. They are not your friends, and they want you dead. So I didn't notice this while playing, but Trevor totally has evil versions of his weapons. And Sypha is simply a zombified version of her true self, and her job is to resuscitate fake Trevor if he's killed before her. But I honestly didn't notice this was happening while playing. Probably because I was too busy freaking out. Fake Grant is also a zombie, but Sypha does not care if he dies. She lets him stay dead. His attacks seem to be the same as the real Grant. He throws knives and climbs on the ceiling. There is something extra spooky though about zombie Grant climbing ceilings, whereas when real Grant climbs the ceilings, it's fine. I don't know, I found that a little disturbing. Number 3, Wizard of Oz library time. The Wizard of Oz themed area in the Forbidden Library is one of the creepiest parts of the whole game for me. Mostly because of this guy, the Scarecrow. When I first saw an impaled body bouncing on a stick, I lost my damn mind. What the hell is going on? I wouldn't have known that these guys were supposed to be scarecrows if the game didn't tell you everyone's name in the bottom corner. Which is super helpful, by the way. Thank you, Symphony of the Night. They simply bounce around and try to impale you too, so you can be impaled friends together or something. According to Castlevania lore, he's simply a man hopping around trying to find a brain. I love it. Allegedly, this is also a reference to Vlad the Impaler, which would make more sense to me than the Wizard of Oz connection, but then that wouldn't explain the other guys in the library, but I'll get to that in a second. Vlad would leave his enemies hanging on stakes in front of his lawn to scare people away. Ooh, spooky! The Tin Man is actually kind of cute in a robot kind of way, but he's super deadly. He's more like a steampunk robot in this universe, with an axe for an arm, wheels for legs, and get this, when you hit him enough, his head pops off and a freaking machine gun comes out, and it shoots. So you gotta keep whacking away at him or else you're totally dead. And lastly, we have the lion, but he's like a half knight, half lion kind of lion with Wolverine hands. He does back away a little bit, you know, to be cowardly, but he really isn't because he will totally swipe at you when given the chance. He's the easiest to defeat out of the three, but he's still worth mentioning. Number 4, Shmoo. I got a pretty good dose of this guy because I was using him to farm for the Chrysogrim sword, and it only took like 10 minutes, so that was cool. We got it! But this made me realize he's kind of cool looking. This is just a giant, well, giant compared to Alucard and Friends, severed head with a burlap sack over it. It's like if Scarecrow from Batman got his head crudely severed off with a very blunt sword. From far away, he reminded me of one of the forms of Freddy Krueger in A Nightmare on Elm Street on NES. All he does is swish around erratically, trying to hit you. And if he does a decent amount of damage. His only claim to fame, really, is that he drops the Chrysogrim, but I still think he's a standout enemy. Number 5, Yorick. I like a lot of the skeletons in the Castlevania series, as they all have their own thing going on, which makes them all memorable in their own right. But this little bone daddy has to be my favorite. His name is Yorick, and this poor little guy has been damned to chase his head around for all eternity. I guess that's why he's called Soccer Boy in Japan. I felt really bad for killing this guy because he's not much of a threat, and then you see his little head roll around after and you just feel bad. So I was calling this guy Beelzebub for like the entire game before I realized it was actually pronounced Beelzebub. But to my defense, when you're playing the game, it is totally spelled like Beelzebub. So I can't feel that bad about it. I like Beelzebub better, but I'll digress. He is a gnarly looking rotting corpse of a monster that has been suspended on hooks. He's also missing a lot of flesh, so it's not a pretty sight. He actually doesn't do anything in the game himself, probably because he's a bit tied up in other things, ha ha ha. But that's where the giant flies come in, and they are no joke. To defeat this mess of a creature, you start from the bottom up, hitting his legs slowly as parts of his body will come crumbling down. You need to use the super jump, which I totally forgot about for most of the game, or you can turn into a bat to get higher up to do damage to his upper half, which can be challenging with the giant flies running around. It's a fun boss battle that has to be one of the most unsettling characters that I've come across. Number 7, Venus Weed. At first, I thought these wiggly little plants were exactly the same as the ones from Castlevania 4, but these are actually totally different. These Venus Weeds, otherwise known as Allura-un in Japan, are some goddess-like creatures that lure you in with their beauty and thickness. But if you get too close, they'll impale you with their vines and absorb your energy. The vines can make it a bit tricky to get through if you're not expecting her to pop up, but she's not too bad to defeat once you know what she's up to. See, she thinks she could be a bitch because she's pretty, but no, she can't hurt me. I'm not gonna fall for it. Number 8, Nova Skeleton. This guy would totally be in my top 5 favorite Castlevania skeletons because he's a bit out of this world. The Nova Skeleton, also known as a beam skeleton, shoots lasers out of his pelvic region. So he just goes around thrusting the air like a maniac. Unlike most Castlevania skeletons, this laser daddy has a seriously powerful attack. If you get in the way of his laser beam, you better have enough health or he will totally kill you. I found myself misting around them in a lot of cases because they can be too hard to dodge in the reverse outer wall. Especially if you sometimes get impatient, like myself. I just like the way these guys look. They're neon green, have 3 red eyes, and they shoot laser beams. I love it. Number 9, Bitterfly. In Japan, these little guys are called Chan-Chan, but in North America, they got the name Bitterfly. Get it? 'Cause they're evil, bitter butterflies. Yeah, I like the Japanese name better. These mutated butterflies with human heads have an invisibility cloak of sorts, which makes them seem to appear out of nowhere. You literally don't see them until you run into them, so that sucks. I thought they were worth mentioning because not only are they cool looking, but besides the imps, they're the only other enemy in the game that drops the lucky drug. Or luck potion, whatever you want to call it. Number 10, Malachi, aka Cthulhu. I'm sure it's obvious why I had to put this guy on the list. He's Cthulhu, but with wings! He's obviously based on the Lovecraftian character of Cthulhu, but he's more like a flying monster with claws and a squid head. His attack is an orb that will totally destroy you, or he'll simply swing at you. I honestly don't have much more to say besides the fact that I think he's cool looking and I wanted him on the list. And remember, this isn't like a 1 to 10 list, so this isn't like my number 1 pick. It's just, I wanted him on there and he happens to be last. So there you have it, my 10 favorite enemies from Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Did I miss any cool ones? If so, let me know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. See you next time, bye!